What's up, guys? Welcome back to Elderwood Games. Thomas here. And today basically marks about a year of me being part of the tabletop wargaming hobby. I kind of want to talk about what I have accomplished this year. Basically, what armies have I done? How far did I get with those armies? What are the statuses of each of those different projects? Then I'd like to talk about what have I learned over the past year? What do I think I did right? And maybe some things that I did wrong. So about a year ago today, I was thinking and realizing that the Battle Force boxes for this Christmas are going up for pre-order soon, and that's where I really started the hobby. I had bought a couple kits before. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 units of stealth suits and a Cold Star Commander under my belt around this time. And that was me sort of dipping my feet in to make sure I liked the hobby. But I knew that the Battle Force boxes would really catapult me into where I needed to be to start an actual army for the Tau. Around that time last year, I ended up taking a trip overseas and enjoying time with my wife and my in-laws, celebrating effectively my honeymoon and just enjoying time with them. In terms of the hobby, this is where everything really started rolling. In short, I had a friend that basically was saying that they thought it would be cool to get into the hobby. And I was like, you know what? I needed a hobby. I hadn't really been doing any hobbying up to that point. So I was like, you know what, this sounds fun. I used to play Age of Sigmar back in the day. It'd be nice to get back into something like that. And having a friend kind of to join in was just going to be an added benefit. They ended up not joining in. And basically, after a little bit, I ended up having to find a game shop to go to, which I found my local Warhammer store. So that's kind of how I got my foot back in the door into tabletop wargaming. And over this past year, I've worked on multiple armies. So I started with the Tau. Like I said before, I had a few suits. And then I got the big Battle Force box last year. Ended up getting 3 copies of them. Built most of those. And then obviously got other items that I needed for it. And in the midst of that, I kind of wanted something to pivot my attention to, because building and painting the Tau suits was honestly getting a little old. So I actually ended up pivoting toward Space Marines. So I started as Salamander's army. It was kind of going back and forth. So I do basically a unit of Space Marines one week, a unit of Tau the next, a unit of Space Marines Tau, Space Marines Tau. Got my Space Marines a good way through, and then my Tau ended up almost taking a little bit of a backseat. I kind of got pretty geared toward just getting my Space Marines caught up. And somewhere in the midst of that, I just wanted a different painting challenge. So I picked up the Biovore for Tyranids. It's, in my opinion, one of the coolest models. I'm surprised I don't have more. They're not really useful to take more than one of, so I just haven't really had a reason to, but I may revisit that kit at some point in the future. And that's where I started to kind of pivot into juggling the 3 armies, Tau, Tyranids, and Space Marines, going between each of those, basically whichever one I felt motivated to do at that time. But then our shop decided to launch a Nachman Gauntlet Crusade League. So I decided to use my Tau for that. At the start of it, I had about 1,200 points of Tau. And by, week 6, I think, it might have been sooner than that because it was 1,000. So by week 5 of that crusade, I needed 2,000 points. So I just put the pedal to the metal and just built and painted Tau basically nonstop. Basically all my free time was building and painting, and it was awful. I'm not going to lie to you. Honestly, if I regret anything in this hobby journey, it would be just slogging through all of that Tau, because it ended up I wasn't enjoying it. I was just painting stuff to get it done. I wasn't taking the time I really wanted to, and I painted some really good stuff in that time. A lot of my crisis suits were actually painted in that time period, but it just was like, it just really took a lot out of me at that point. After the Crusade League, which I did very horrible in case you were wondering. The only reason I wasn't in last place in terms of points was because people ended up dropping out of the league, and I ended up surpassing them by the end. Crusade is not my strong suit, I guess, as much as I do really enjoy it, actually. And I do think that it's a great way to play Warhammer. Not really my strong suit. I did end up winning, however, Best Painted Army, which was a great honor. Doing that was a great learning experience for me. It basically taught me that I can build and paint a ton of stuff in a very limited amount of time, but that I really don't like doing that. And basically since then, I've actually pretty significantly slowed down in my painting. I used to basically paint like about a unit a week, build and paint a unit a week, and I've just kind of like started taking it a little bit easier, letting my hobby time be like fun. And basically around this time, I also wanted a little bit more change of scenery, and that's when I started dipping my toes into the idea of AOS, and I picked up the Orc Warclan Spearhead box. I still have to build and paint most of that. I have some of it already built and painted with the Ard Boys, and I really love that kit. It's like one of the coolest kits in my opinion in Age of Sigmar. Basically, I built that unit, and then I was back into just 40k in general. My wife started to get a little bit interested in it, and that's when I started building and painting the Sisters of Battle for her. She picked out the Hospitaller as her first unit, so we kind of built and painted a little bit of that together. Not really her favorite part of the hobby, so I ended up taking over and basically just building and painting the Hospitaller, and then finishing out and building and painting her Combat Patrol, which if you're interested in seeing any of that and me talking through that, I actually do have a video of me doing that and revealing that army to her here on the channel, and I'll kind of post a link to that now. So after kind of all that kind of goes through, we ended up doing a match play league and the what was it, Armageddon Crusade at the shop. So we had those running concurrently, and effectively I was like, okay, I really want to try my hand at match play, be a little bit more competitive, but also if there's people looking for Crusade games and I'm filling up for it, I also will be doing that. So basically I was doing Tau for match play because I felt like I had a pretty decently competitive list, and then I was doing Tyranids for Crusade just because I wanted to have balance, right? So I did the match play league, and during that time I felt like I did pretty well. I was trying to get, you know, how we do it at the shop is basically you get 2 games per week, and whatever you score in those first 2 games are your score for the week, and then you just do that for, I think it was 8 or 10 weeks maybe. And actually by the end of it, I ended up coming in second, which between me and first place was like 40 or 50 like cumulative points. Basically the first place person had multiple perfect games of 100. They're a little bit more like tournament grindy. Great opponent though, honestly. Learned a lot playing him. I played him once or twice in that league and in other kind of events in the past at our shop, but really good opponent. I really enjoy playing against him and that sort of thing, and it was just a great time. I ended up getting second. I can't remember what my total points was overall, but I think my average points was around 70, which I know isn't like great for maybe competitive standards, but compared to basically all my games leading up to that, 70 points on average for games for me was actually really good, and I really do, I am kind of proud of my progress in that arena, just being completely honest here. So after the match play league was over, basically I was in a little bit of a lull because I had, at that point, I had well over 3,000 points of Tau. My Tyranids were crossing over 2,000 points, and at that point I've basically just, I still need to, but I've decided to let go of my Space Marines collection just because I'm not playing them, I don't want to play them, and I need to make room for some of my other projects. And I was kind of in a lull, like I was saying, so with all those sort of caught up, I was like, well, you know, I could go to AOS, but there wasn't really anything happening with AOS at the shop just in that time. But some people were getting into Horus Heresy. And as I've talked about in previous episodes on the channel, I decided to go with Mechanicum. So this is around the time when I started building and painting that army, which I have got my Combat Force and Ursarex and my Tech Priests all painted up. So I have about 1,300 points that's ready to go. I'll probably be building and painting those in the midst of some of my other stuff. They are my quickest army to build and paint, which is great. So if any point I just want to knock out some models, that'll be my go-to just to get that going. One thing that has been on my mind for honestly a little over 6 months now was just another project in general. Something that was going to take a bit more of my time and was going to be kind of my first foray into the world of like kit bashes and sculpting, and basically just it was going to be my first steps into really getting into some of the more hardcore, I guess you could say, parts of the hobby, and that is Chaos Knights. I know you're thinking like, oh, Chaos Knights, like there's some cool stuff you can do with them, but how is that like your kit bash army? And it's really the idea I have for them. So if you've taken a look at my Instagram in the past week or so, I have posted about my Chaos Knight, which I've had some subtle clues and that sort of thing in relation to the theming, but the theme is going to be American cryptids. Right now I'm actually working on Sasquatch, which is going to be the Knight Ruinator. So I'm building and painting that, and it's coming along pretty well. My next Knight, which I believe is the Knight Abominant, is going to be Mothman, which that one is probably going to take a bit more kit bashing and some other bits and pieces from potentially not even kits, some other just stuff. And then I also want to do Lizard Man as, I don't think it's the Rampager, it's the other one, the Desecrator, I think, which the Lizard Man is a little bit near and dear to my heart. It's actually from my home state, South Carolina, and just kind of a interesting sort of story that comes about in that way. So those are where I'm starting with, are the big knights. I also plan to have armigers and war dogs that are based around them. So it'll basically be like big knight, little knights, and then even their cultists will be kind of related to them. So I'm trying to find good infantry units to use as damned units and that sort of thing to work with the army. But my Chaos Knights, I'm planning to take them a little bit slower. They will be my kickoff army for 11th edition. So I'm hoping to have around, 1,500 to 2,000 points before 11th edition kicks off, which of course, it's just speculation at this point that 11th edition starts next summer. But given that it's been on a 3-year cycle for the past 2 editions, I think we're probably going to stick with that. But we will see. I mean, who knows? They might actually end up kicking that to another year, and we'll actually have another year of 10th edition, which will just mean I'll start Chaos Knights in 10th edition, and that'll be fine. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. But that's been kind of my journey with basically all my projects leading up to now in the past year. So I'd kind of love to know what your first year of 40,000 or just wargaming in general looked like. Did you finish a full army? Did you get through 1,000 points? What was that like? I know my journey is a lot different than a lot of yours. So I'd love to hear about that. So now that I've talked through my hobbying journey this past year, I wanted to sort of talk about the lessons that I've learned and maybe give you some pointers if this is your first year in Warhammer, or if you're starting over, or whatever point in the hobby you may be in. Number one thing, above all, and I've already talked about this in another video, so I won't stand on it for too long, is community is number one. You really need to consider getting involved in either your local game store or have a friend or two getting into the hobby with you. And all that's going to do is going to serve as motivation for you and your friends to keep going. And it just means that by the end of your progress, or as you make progress, you have people that you're going to be able to play with. And they're going to be able to push you, to help you discover and learn a lot faster. If you're painting by yourself, even if you're following tutorials here on YouTube or through a Patreon, you will advance. but being able to kind of work with and compete with your friends in painting is going to help you become a better painter. If gameplay is more the thing, then having multiple friends that play different armies is going to help you improve your list building, improve just your overall ability to play the game. And for me, I think that just having a group of people to come together maybe once a week, once a month, once every couple weeks, however the frequency is going to be for you and your group. Having that group of people to meet up with and hang with is overall just the most important thing with any hobby, really. But I think with this one, community is number one. My next bit is going to be get it done first. You can make it better later. So when you're just starting out, whether you've painted models before or not, you're going to be, there's going to be some things that you're going to want to do, and you may want to be painting perfectly from the beginning. And I would say don't worry so much about that. I personally am the type of person that I don't like playing with unfinished models, so I do like to have my finished models on the table. But I think as you're kind of starting out, just get your base colors on there. If that's something that you need to do to feel like you're ready to play, just get your base colors on there, play some games with those, and then, take your captains, do a little bit more on each of those, kind of slowly build. And that'll also help with, I don't really know if there's a catchy phrase for it, but maybe almost like painter's remorse. So one thing that you'll kind of learn, unfortunately, is as you paint more models and you get better at it, your 50th model is going to look better than your first model. And depending on how many models are between your first model and the end of your army, your last unit is going to look a percentage better than your first one. And depending how you feel about that, it may lead you to kind of repaint kind of going forward. I have some units that I'm looking forward to repainting. I want to repaint my ghost keels with better camouflage and make them look crisper, because right now they're a little bit grungier, which was my original scheme for my Tau. And that's something that I want to do, and that's different for you all, most definitely. But I think if you get the models built, maybe a little bit of paint on them, and then revisit them to paint them up to a better standard or more of the standard that you want to have for your army, I think you're going to end up having more fun because you're not going to be focused on kind of the painting aspect from the beginning, and you can actually get into gaming a lot sooner. And that'll also help you with, you're going to already be working on list building before you already have a completed 2,000 point army, and kind of learn that maybe that 2,000 point army isn't as good as you were hoping it was going to be, and you can kind of learn a little bit of that along the way instead of devoting a lot of time to painting or hobbying before realizing that. And then lastly, this really helped me, but one thing that I've learned is that multiple projects really help with burnout. And obviously I've taken breaks, I've taken like weeks off from doing any of the Warhammer stuff. I've just, taken time, played some video games, did Magic, some other things other than the hobby itself. Having even, it doesn't even have to be a second army. It could just be taking the mini of the month and painting that for a week instead of painting your army. Or, just picking another faction that you think looks cool, pick your favorite model from that faction, and build and paint it for a couple days, just to kind of give yourself that mental break from maybe the army that you've been working on for the past 3-4 months or so. I personally believe that having something else to work on is going to help you kind of learn a lot faster as well. Because for me, I started with Tau, and I started with like a kind of grungier scheme. And then now they are my like crisp and clean army. And I wouldn't have learned that unless I had basically started another dirty army, which was my Space Marines. Like, because I was painting both of them in that rough scheme, it actually made me want to have one of them be more crisp. And I felt like the Tau was definitely just the better pick for that. So I ended up testing some schemes. I almost changed the entire color scheme of my army, which you'll see my Riptide is actually blue. and that was honestly a test model. I know, a weird test model, but I was about to repaint my entire like brown and green towel into blue and green. And that is a testament to that I ended up not doing it. But you know, experimentation and that sort of thing is part of this hobby. And I think leaning into that, trying out different units, different armies, different models even, is going to help you kind of find that and give you a break from your typical norm. Whereas, you know, if you are painting something like Tau, there's not really a lot of wiggle room to like experiment in that like kind of same area if you want a fully cohesive army. If you don't, then go for it. Like paint all your Tau different colors. That'd be super sick. I love having mixed colors in armies. I think it's a cool idea. That's why my Mechanicum look the way that they do. Number one, community. Number two, you can always improve and go back to things. Just get it done to the best of your ability first, revisit it later. And then lastly, have some other projects to work on when you start to hit that wall or that plateau with whatever project you're currently working on. If I were to start everything over, I think I might have tried to take it slower with my Tau. I think I would have tried to stick with Tau for longer and gotten to a better point value, maybe more 1500 or even 2000, before branching as fully as I did into a second army. Because in the pinnacle of that, I was going back and forth and getting them both to 2,000 points at the same time. I would not do it that way again. I would have my second army be my break army until I got my first army that I really wanted to have to 2,000 points. And then I would have pivoted to be more in my second army, worked on that one, and then possibly gotten a third army to be my break army for that, or use my Tau to be my break army from my second army to be able to work both of those up at the same pace. I think that would really be the big thing that I would do differently if I were to start everything over. And that's kind of how I'm seeing Chaos Knights moving towards 11th edition. Is I have other armies that I can have be my break from it when I'm not feeling like doing this, and working on those. And there may be another army that I'm thinking about for 11th edition as well. I'll get into that when I actually, you know, push the button and make the first purchase, or get gifted them, I guess, is a possibility. But yeah, it's been a great year, honestly. I feel like Warhammer has been an overall positive in my life. You know, I haven't been doing this YouTube thing for very long with Warhammer, but I have enjoyed interacting with you all in the comments of my videos. I enjoy having somewhere to go on my Friday afternoons, spending time with some guys at my local game store, getting some game ins, or just cutting up around the hobby table. It's just been a wonderful thing, and it's been a wonderful just change to my life, a positive increase. And I'm very thankful for the community I have, that I have a wife that supports me and my hobby, allows me to take the time that I kind of want and need for doing my hobby stuff and spending time with my community there. And yeah, I'm just like really thankful, I guess appropriately for this time of year. I am very thankful that I found this hobby, as mushy and gushy as that may sound. But yeah, how was your first year in Warhammer 40,000, if you've gotten there? Or how was your first year going if you've just recently started into the hobby or gotten back into the hobby? I'd love to hear how it's going for you all down in the comments below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye guys.